Welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Tons of stuff to go through as RFA is starting to fall into place and signing like crazy. Man, there's a lot of stuff to go through, Matt. Busy day. And we're going to go through our top 10 list for left wingers, so stay tuned for that. We're going to end the show with that, and that could be a surprise because Matt and I don't know who's on our top 10, but remember to leave your top 10. Comment below. Let us know who you like. Follow us on B&B Hockey Talk, Facebook or YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe. Share with your friends and get all your up-to-date hockey action. Matt, let's get into all the signings. Just go because there's lots in this past week. So.
All right, well, let's go right off the top. Mitch Marner, he signed a 6-year, $65.358 million deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs, coming in at a $10.893 million cap hit. The big thing here is that the Leafs now have 3 of the highest 7 paid players in the NHL, with Austin Matthews and John Tavares also on that list. Also part of this deal, $60.958 million of that deal is all just in signing bonuses. So he's only actually making $4.4 million in actual salary over those 6 years, and including he's
not hurting. Let me put it that way.
Well, yeah, and including $29 million just in the first 2 seasons. Just in signing bonuses. So, it's crazy. And then if you add in William Nylander's cap hit, with Matthews and Tavares on top of Marner, just under 50% of their cap hit or salary cap is just being paid to those 4 players moving forward. So it's going to be super intriguing to see how Toronto handles the cap moving forward. Like, I know this season there's no worries now. It's just to get the season rolling and keep going. But like with guys like Tyson Barrie, Jake Muzzin, becoming UFAs on top of Freddie Anderson after the season only having 1 year. Morgan Riley's all right because he's still got 3 years left on his current deal, but it's going to be interesting to see how competitive Toronto will have to fill out their roster moving forward. But the good thing is that they do have a deep pool of prospects to go moving forward on their entry level deals. But that's a big one. Mitch Marner officially signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's see. The next big one, Charlie McAvoy with the Boston Bruins, signed a 3-year, $14.7 million deal, coming in at a $4.9 million cap hit. The big thing is the structure of this deal, sort of like the Zach Werenski one with the Columbus Blue Jackets. The first 2 seasons, he's only making $3.7 million. And that 3rd year, he's making $7.3 million. So coming in at that qualifying offer or heading into arbitration, that's the bare minimum Boston will have to pay him. Boston also re-signed Brandon Carlo to a 2-year, $5.7 million deal with a $2.85 million contract. So Boston now has all of their defensemen signed going into this season. As we go there, let's head to the Philadelphia Flyers. They signed both of their 2 remaining RFA players. Ivan Provorov signed a 6-year, $40.5 million deal, coming in at a $6.75 million cap hit. This guy is a freaking workhorse. Averaged over 25 minutes of ice time a night last year. The point totals went down a little bit, but if he can be like a 40-point guy, that'll be perfect. And they also signed Travis Konechny to a 6-year, $33 million deal, coming in at a $5.5 million cap hit, which is actually the exact same deal as his cousin Bo Horvat signed with the Canucks. So that's actually a cool little side note there. Let's head to the Winnipeg Jets. They locked up Josh Morrissey to an 8-year, $50 million contract extension that kicks in the 2020-21 season. That's a $6.25 million cap hit. As we know, with Josh Morrissey, and then now the question marks around Dustin Byfuglien, which we'll touch on later. They're basically the only 2 legit top 4 defensemen that the Winnipeg Jets possess. So that's really key to get them locked up long term. The other defenseman that got a big, huge contract extension was Jared Spurgeon with the Minnesota Wild. Got a 7-year, $53.025 million contract extension, coming in at a $7.575 million cap hit. That also kicks in the 2020-21 season. And this also makes him the richest deal in Minnesota Wild history with cap hit wise, which is a little more than what Zach Parise and Ryan Suter made. But those were also 12-year contracts that were given out to both of those guys. What else do we have here?
You're missing the second biggest contract signing.
Yes, sorry. There's a lot going, but yeah, happened late last night. Brock Besser signed a 3-year, $17.625 million deal, coming in at a $5.875 million cap hit. The thing with him is also in that year 3, he's making $7.5 million in salary, which is big. Sort of with the McAvoy going into the salary arbitration or qualifying offer. But yeah, it's great to have him back in the fold after him missing training camp. I just can't wait to see Brock and Pettersson back on a line together. But yeah, the excitement is off the charts, and he was back on the ice this morning at practice. So hopefully he'll be in some preseason games sooner rather than later. But yeah, it's just huge to have him back in the lineup.
Well, there's many other people still. Ben Hutton signs in LA.
Yes, Ben Hutton signed a 1-year, $1.5 million deal late last night with the LA Kings. They're a team that LA is a team that's going with a lot of a younger group on the back end. So it's good to have to add another defenseman that has some NHL experience. I'm wishing him the best because with some struggles having to play with Erica Branson as his pairing partner for majority of last season before he got traded, I'm hoping he can turn things around because he does have a ton of potential. And a couple other minor signings for RFAs. Brendan Lemieux got a 1-year $925K with the New York Rangers, and Marcus Pettersson got a 1-year $874K dollar deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And lastly, to finish out things, Frederick Clausen got a 1-year $700K deal with the Carolina Hurricanes as a depth defenseman because, Carolina needs all the defensemen they can get.
Yeah. One more as well. Andrew Mangiapane in Calgary also signed.
Yes, too many guys. Andrew Mangiapane got a 1-year $715K deal with the Calgary Flames. It's a 2-way contract, but I wouldn't expect him being sent down to the minors as he after he got called up to Calgary midway through the season, he performed really well. And it's just weird seeing like a contract like that, why that couldn't get signed 2 months ago or whatever. But I think that would have been more. I think he was wanting a 1-way contract, but whatever. That's but at the end of the day, there are only 8 remaining RFA players remaining, and that's Matthew Tkachuk, Mikko Rantanen, Braden Point, Patrick Laine, Kyle Connor, Anthony DeAngelo, Julius Honka, and Saku Milanen, who's another sort of depth guy with Carolina. Those are the 8 remaining RFA players. So it's dwindling slowly but surely. So hopefully by this time next week, all those guys will be signed. But yeah, it's just nice to have all these guys getting locked up now that training camp and preseason are now in full force.
And with training camp starting, guys, back at it. Exhibition games have started. Great to see hockey back. Hockey highlights on the sports. It's always fun to see. But injuries are starting to pile up as well, and players are being announced as injured. Why don't you catch us up on that list as well?
Yes. So some of the bigger ones, Corey Perry is going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks after a small foot fracture. Apparently, like he slipped on a step or whatever and sort of rolled his foot. So just some bad luck there.
That's the story anyways.
I know, yeah.
It's Corey Perry. I mean, I would, anyways.
There's that, and even more bad, like Christian Wolanin with Ottawa, suffered a torn labrum and will be out 4 months. Apparently, he just slipped on the ice, and I guess he fell in such a way that, that he tore it. So, which sucks for him because he was in to get a big role with Ottawa this season. Noah Juleson with the Montreal Canadiens has been suffering from headaches. Is going to seek a second opinion from a specialist. Of course, he dealt with an orbital, I believe it was an orbital injury last year after he took a puck to the face and was shut down for the season. So I'm hoping the best for him because he's also another local kid from our area, and hoping everything works out because you don't want to see a young kid's career end too early because of concussion-related stuff. Also, the Anaheim Ducks officially ruled out Ryan Kessler and Patrick Eaves, both out for the entire season this year. Kessler with the hip injury and Patrick Eaves with his medical issues that he's been dealing with. What else? Toronto Maple Leafs ruled Zach Hyman and Travis Dermott out for at least the first 12 games of the season. Zach Hyman recovering from a torn ACL, while Travis Dermott, I believe, is recovering from a shoulder injury. Nolan Patrick with the Philadelphia Flyers. He's been dealing with injuries throughout his career, even going back to junior. He's out week to week with an upper body injury. Heading to Chicago, Kirby Dack is right now in concussion protocol. He was the 3rd overall pick in this year's past draft. And also Calvin DeHaan with Chicago is out still another 2 to 3 weeks as he's recovering from shoulder surgery. They're hoping to get him back for the start of the regular season. Heading to Colorado, Kevin Connaughton suffered a broken cheekbone and had to get 3 plates put in his face. But luckily he's been skating right now. So good news there. Ryan Reeves is missing the start of training camp and maybe a little bit in the start of the preseason after a minor injury suffered in off-ice workouts. Chris Russell with Edmonton is out at least a week going through concussion protocol after he collided with one of his teammates in a practice. And last but not least, heading to Boston, they have a bunch of guys out due with injuries right now, with Joachim Nordstrom, Patrice Bergeron, Kevin Miller, John Moore, Matt Grzelcyk, and Trent Frederick, all missing the start of training camp. And Zdeno Chara, I believe, is on the ice, and he should be ready for the start of the season after having jaw surgery and elbow surgery this offseason. And a cool little note that I saw, Vince Dunn, as we know, he suffered that broken jaw in last year's playoffs. I believe he missed. He lost some 5 teeth he had to get replaced on top of the jaw, and he tried practicing with like one of those bubbles or a cage, and said he never liked it. And he came back with a visor, and he said he'd rather take another puck to the face than wear a cage, which is peak hockey player level right there, which I found hilarious. But yeah, so that's all the injury updates. And then now we're getting into some headline news. The biggest one that we brought up earlier, Dustin Byfuglien, who was granted a personal leave of absence before training camp. Bob McKenzie came out this morning dropping a bomb on all of us, saying that Byfuglien's actually contemplating his playing future in the NHL, which is crazy. He has 2 years left on his contract at a $7.6 million cap hit and is owed $14 million over those 2 seasons.
That's almost as big of news as Evander Kane appearing in the ESPN body issue. But that's for Winnipeg fans. I mean, you look at that. If Byfuglien does turn around and retire instead of play this year, that just devastates their defense because if they had known sooner, I don't think they would have necessarily traded Trouba, even though he wanted to go to the U.S. for his girlfriend's situation there. But maybe they turn around and re-sign Myers instead. That's just devastating news for Winnipeg right now.
Yeah, so I look to them to maybe get in on the trade front. Like we know for right shot defenseman Justin Falk with Carolina and Rasmus Ristolainen with Buffalo are the 2 big names on the trade market that can jump right into a top 4 position. Because like if you look at Winnipeg's defense, like you got Dmitry Kulikov, Nathan Beaulieu, Neil Pionk, which could go either way.
I think Pionk will be okay, but
Yeah.
Sammy Niku as well is another one of those guys that's questionable. I'm not sure if he's ready for that ice time or not yet, but
Yeah, so it's just like, yeah, it's pretty rough after when you get behind Bufflin and Morrissey. And of course, Bufflin's dealt with major injuries the past 2 seasons. Like, he only played 42 games this past regular season. So the health issues, because like we saw even like in the NFL with Andrew Luck, all of a sudden retiring because of health issues. So something to keep an eye moving forward. Yevgeny Kuznetsov was suspended 3 games by the NHL for inappropriate conduct. That's for the cocaine use that he tested positive for at the IIHF.
and our very own Shea Theodore from Alder Grove, British Columbia, said he went through testicular cancer through the summertime, and it sounds like he's fought it and is through it, and back playing hockey already.
Yeah, which was crazy. He's got a great story about the whole situation on the Player Tribune, which we have shared on our Facebook page if you guys want to catch up on that. But that also came off a blood test, I believe, at the World Championships, and that's how they caught it, luckily. Just hopefully everything health wise for him moving forward is a-okay. It's great to be back on the ice. The other big news: the NHLPA declined to reopen the current CBA, so there will be labor peace until the end of the 2021-22 season. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about any lockouts for at least the next few seasons. And maybe by the way discussions have been going, there could be an extension even on top of that, maybe by the end of the year. Though I won't get my
depends how bad the players want to play in the Olympics, I think.
Yeah, I think that, and then there's a bunch of stuff like on escrow and all that. But with like the new TV deal in the US that will be kicking in coming up, I think that will be huge for contracts and the way the money is distributed between the players and ownership, and Seattle coming into the league on top of that. So thankfully no lockouts in the near future. Patrick Laine and Mikko Rantanen are both skating together in Switzerland. Patrick Laine came out with some comments about his situation, saying that he wants first-line minutes with Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler, which that's what you want from your players. But usually Kyle Connor and Nikolai Ehlers on that left-hand side, it's difficult there. And of course, Blake Wheeler brought up he plays on the first unit power play. And of course, Winnipeg's power play has been one of the best in the league the past couple of seasons, with Laine being one of the key contributors on that. So, and of course, their agent also with Rantanen and Laine say they are nowhere near close to new deals. And the same with Braden Point with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is looking for a bridge deal, a 3-year deal, reportedly at a $5.7 million cap hit. The thing there is that Tampa Bay's done a lot of these bridge deals with a lot of their players. Nikita Kucherov did like a 3-year deal. That he just came off of around like $4.5 million. Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, all these guys signed bridge deals before signing long-term with big raises on top of that. So I'm not sure if Braden Point's going to play the same ball game as those other players, but that's something to keep an eye on. Also, Julius Honka, who remains unsigned with Dallas, has requested a trade. The Montreal Canadiens, I've seen as a team that have shown interest. But other than that, Logan Couture was named the 10th captain in franchise history for the San Jose Sharks this upcoming season. That's a lot of information
a lot's happened in the last 7 days, but let's transition into our top 10 list for left wingers. We've done our goalies, our defensemen already. Now we're getting to the forwards. We're going to start with the left wingers. We'll do a countdown 10 through 1, going back and forth each. We'll also touch on some notables towards the end of the list. Remember to like or comment below about what you think of our top 10 list. We'll publish these on our Facebook page again as well in a couple of days. So Matt, why don't you start us off with your 10, 9, and 8?
All right. Yeah. So my 1 through 9, I hammered it down pretty good. The number 10 was the most difficult because I've had about like 3-4 guys that were fighting for the spot. But at number 10, surprisingly, I went with Matthew Tkachuk as my number 10. He had 34 goals, 77 points in 80 games, but also racked up 62 penalty minutes. He's sort of what you would know as, well, I can't say it on the show because we don't swear, as a crap disturber. I'll go that way. But yeah, he's perfect. He plays that gritty game. He gets under opponent's skin, and he can rack up points like crazy. And depending on when he signs his contract, I think he should be in for another big season. I know he plays behind Goudreau on the left-hand side on the second line, but I'm a huge fan of how he plays. My number 9 from the Florida Panthers, Jonathan Huberdeau, had a huge breakout season, 30 goals, 92 points in 82 games, playing alongside Barkov on that top line. One of the best setup guys in the NHL, and actually has some nice dangles from in tight. His goal totals did take a jump nicely to 30 goals this past season. And he had 5-game winners on top of that. And my number 8 from the Colorado Avalanche, Gabriel Landeskog, had 34 goals, 75 points in 73 games last season. The thing that puts him over Huberdeau is his two-way game. He can hit you. He can play on both special teams, even though he doesn't play much on the penalty kill, but he can play on both special teams. He's part of that great top line. But yeah, it's just everything I would want in a left winger right there. So my number 10, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 9, Jonathan Huberdeau. Number 8, Gabriel Landeskog.
For the first time, I don't think we're going to have the same 10 on our top 10 list, which is
Nice.
which is good, because for me, this was really tough. There's a lot of players here that are skilled. There's a lot of players that have different skill sets. And I'm going with the ones that, of course, I think are the top 10. So there's going to be ones that you disagree with. There's going to be ones that our listeners disagree with. But let's start off. My number 10 is Nashville Predator, Philippe Forsberg. Just phenomenal hands. He seems to go somewhat unnoticed. I think he's going to have a really good season, by the way, this year, because he's more than likely going to be playing with Matt Duchene. And if he's not, he's still going to be playing with Ryan Johansson. So I think he's going to have a massive season this year. But he goes really unnoticed in that team of Nashville, where everyone's kind of underrated. I don't know how they do it year after year, but my number 9, captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, one Claude Giroux. Fantastic two-way player. He's turned into, he's played center before in the past. He's more of a winger now, but every year he scores a few highlight goals where he goes end-to-end. Last year, of course, being the one against Tampa where he went through everyone, including Hedman and then Deke Vasilevsky. But he continues to play. He continues to produce year after year with the Philadelphia Flyers. And my number 8 is the exact same as yours, from the Colorado Avalanche, Gabriel Landeskog. What's not to like about this guy? If he doesn't get the puck, he'll run you over. He creates a lot of disturbance in front of the net, kind of like your number 10, and opens up the ice for guys like McKinnon and Rantanen to do their thing. So my 10, Philippe Forsberg, 9, Claude Giroux, 8, Gabriel Landeskog. Back to you, Matt, for 7, 6, and 5.
All right. Yeah, Philippe Forsberg was one of those guys that was fighting for that number 10 spot. I just couldn't get him on the list. My number 7, well, you just brought him up, Claude Giroux with the Philadelphia Flyers. 22 goals, 85 points last year in 82 games, which was actually a bit of a step down from his season before, where he had a Hart Trophy season where he had 102 points. But, yeah, talk about revitalizing his career. Ever since he got moved from center over to left wing on a line with Sean Couturier, his game's just been taken to a whole new level. He averaged just under 21 and a half minutes of ice time game last year, and he played on both special teams. Of course, you could still maybe consider him as a centerman, because I looked, he still took over 1,100 faceoffs last year, and actually had a 57.9% faceoff winning percentage, which was incredible. But yeah, just his passing ability and his ability to raise his game, it gets him in at the number 7. Number 6, from the New Jersey Devils, Taylor Hall. He only got into 33 games last season, but had 11 goals and 37 points. This is going to be a huge season for him as he's in a contract year with the New Jersey Devils. But yeah, the big thing that does take the step down was him getting injured last season. But if he gets right back on the horse where he had the 93 points and won the Hart Trophy with New Jersey, I can see him climbing back up towards the upper half of this list. And my number 5 is another former centerman that transitioned to the wing, Leon Draisaitl with the Edmonton Oilers. Huge season last year, 50 goals, 105 points in 82 games. Just one goal behind Ovechkin for the league lead. He's also a guy that can play both center and left wing. Plays on both special teams. Averaged over 22 and a half minutes of ice time last season. And I know some people will take, he plays with Connor McDavid, and there's the Connor McDavid effect and all that. But the size in which he plays, the skill, the hands, the shot, you can't take that away from him. So my number 7, Claude Giroux. Number 6, Taylor Hall. Number 5, Leon Draisaitl.
Well, my number 7 is New Jersey Devil, Taylor Hall. Like you said, I mean, he had almost a point a game last season, but MVP season the year before. I think he's going to get back to it if he can stay healthy. And it might even be a season where he could put up even more depending on who he plays with in New Jersey as they're getting better. And he's got a better surrounding cast now to put up more points. My number 6 used to be on Columbus, now on the Rangers, Artemi Panarin. Just signed a huge contract with the Rangers. He's now the Broadway show. And I'm curious to see how he performs this year. But Panarin's been absolutely great the last few seasons. And his point totals continue to climb. And my number 5 from the Calgary Flames, Johnny Hockey. The guy's got some serious skills. Even though he's small, he just never seems to really ever get hit. He's a great playmaker, great stick handler, and, of course, a good finisher. Except against Jacob Markstrom for some reason. He doesn't seem to know how to score on him. But Johnny Hockey's my number 5. So my number 7, Taylor Hall. 6, Artemi Panarin. And number 5, Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey.
Well, just to piggyback off that, my number 4, Johnny Gaudreau. 36 goals, 99 points last year. Just fell 1 point short of 100 points. And I'll give him credit because I think I have him at my number 8 or 9 last year on my top 10 list. And I think a lot of that was his goal totals I thought were a little low. But he stepped it up this year, getting up to 36 points on top of his excellent playmaking skills. But as you brought up, like for a player of his size, what he can do with the puck is incredible. The only disappointing thing that came for him last season was his playoff performance, where he couldn't buy a goal to save his life, and he only had the 1 assist in 5 games. But when it comes to pure skill-wise, Gaudreau's one of the top guys in the league. My number 3. I love this guy. It's like I put him super high on my list last year. Artemi Panarin, who is now with the New York Rangers, had another career season, 28 goals, 87 points in 79 games. Also had a great playoff year, putting up 5 goals and 11 points in 10 games. He's small, but man, this guy can create offense like no tomorrow. I can't wait to see what he's going to do with some of those young guys with the Rangers, with Mika Zibanejad, who I think is actually severely underrated for what he brings. And then depending on who plays on that right side with either Capo Caco or like Pavel Buchnevich. But yeah, it's just he's a game-changing winger. But yeah, I can't wait there. But yeah, we'll save the top 2, I believe. So my number 4, Johnny Gaudreau. Number 3, Artemi Panarin.
My number 4 is someone that never made your list, I'm assuming. The Dallas Stars captain, Jamie Benn from Victoria, BC. Might be a bit of a surprise to you, but Jamie Benn, to me, absolutely carried Dallas on his back last year, along with Tyler Seguin and Ben Bishop. Those 3 guys dragged Dallas into double overtime against St. Louis in the playoffs. And if it wasn't for Ben as well as Seguin and Bishop, Dallas, to me, last year wouldn't have even made the playoffs. but he takes a lot of responsibility. He's a power forward, which you don't see a lot of nowadays in the NHL. His skating, his physicality, just everything that he brings. He kills penalties. He's on the power play, and one of those old school power forwards that you don't see much of. Number 3, the people probably hate this guy the most, but Boston Bruins, Brad Marchand. Just what's not to like about this guy? He plays on to me, the best line in hockey with Patrice Bergeron and David Pastrnak. Kills penalties, plays on the power play, kisses people, bites people, does all this crazy antics. But you know what? When it counts the most, when it comes to the playoffs, this guy shows up. He's a gamer. He does, he puts up some incredible stats throughout the season. But Brad Marchand, as much as people love to hate him, he's a heck of a hockey player. And I know we loved having him on Team Canada when he played with Bergeron and Crosby on the line. He's still at the top for me. But so my number 4, Jamie Benn. Number 3, Brad Marchand.
All right, yeah, but Jamie Benn is on my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
For me, I didn't hold him in as high regards for his season.
Why don't you go through a couple of your honorable mentions now?
All right, yeah. So my 5 honorable mentions I'll bring up. Of course, you had him as your number 10, Philippe Forsberg with Nashville. The one thing is that he's been injured the past 2 seasons, which has, I think, held him back just a little bit from reaching that next level, at least point-wise. But he's another guy that has incredible skill and can play on both special teams. Alex DeBrincat with Chicago. I think next year, if he has another big season like he had last year, he will definitely be on my top 10 list next year. 41 goals in 82 games. Part of that big power play with Patrick Kane there and Dylan Strome. I think that was a big reuniting Strome and DeBrincat, who were teammates in junior, was big. Jeff Skinner with Buffalo had 40 goals, 63 points last year. The thing is, he had a really hot first half of the season, but the second half his play severely dropped. But if he can do it consistently, he's a dark horse that could make the list next year. Jonathan Marchessault with the Vegas Golden Knights also just missed out. He had, his point totals dropped back a little bit from 77 or somewhere around there down to 59 this year. But still a dynamic playmaker and difference maker on that line with William Karlsson, Riley Smith, and Jamie Benn is my last honorable mention. For me, the point totals had a big drop from 79 down to 53 last year. And I thought the struggles that he had, like, of course, we know I believe it was not the owner, but the president or whatever, with the remarks on both Sagan and Ben came down harsh. But he's a guy, if he has a bounce back season, because when he's on his game, he's one of the best power forwards in the NHL. But the thing is, I thought his offensive production and stuff took just enough of a step back that I couldn't get him on my top 10 list.
My honorable mentions, very similar to yours, Alex DeBrincat. Although the NHL had him in their top 10 list, I was a little surprised at that. But to me, he's not quite top 10 just yet. Very young, upcoming guy with the Chicago Blackhawks, of course. Matt Tkachuk, I was very close to putting on my top 10. He's also honorable mention, as is Jonathan Huberdeau, who I absolutely love and want to put on my top 10. And I think he's going to have a heck of a season this year in Florida. And there'll be no way I can't leave him off. He'll definitely be on my top 10, I think, next year. And then just making the cusp of my final notable is Max Pacioretty of the Vegas Golden Knights, who, when on, can definitely be a difference maker in a game. Obviously, he's stepped back a little bit in the last couple of seasons, but now with his first full season underway in Vegas, playing with Mark Stone, I think he's going to have a heck of a season this year. And we already saw him pop a hat trick in his first exhibition game. So
I was going to say, if he continues off that playoff set he had too, where that was like the one big question mark, is he had done it in the regular season, but everybody was questioning what he's going to do in the playoffs. But that entire line with Stastny and Stone, they were an absolute force in the playoffs last year. Just some bad luck. I don't want to remind Vegas fans or anything of that.
I'm guessing your number 2 is my number 3, and my number 2 is Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, I think he could do it without McDavid. He's a hell of a hockey player. Big physical body, hard to check, very good at protecting the puck. But he's the kind of guy that makes his teammates better. Unlike Marchand, he does play with McDavid, but there's still a lot of times he's not playing with McDavid. And still, I find sometimes he produces more when he's not with McDavid. Unless, of course, they're on the power play together. But that's my number 2, Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, my number 1, the Great 8, Alex Ovechkin. As the Washington Capitals announcer says many times throughout the year, the guy's just a goal-scoring machine. Doesn't matter who his line mates are. And obviously, he'll probably be playing with Backstrom or Kuznetsov down the middle, and probably Tom Wilson again, who makes a lot of space for him throughout the season. But Ovechkin, if you've ever seen how mean he can play, he can hit like a freight train too. The guy's built. He's a pretty tough guy to hit, and is tough. I mean, ask Svechnikov how good his right hand is.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, my number 2, Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins. Career season, 36 goals, 100 points in 79 games. Of course, you brought it up. He's a guy that can do it all. You can get under your skin. You can play both special teams. He had 9 game-winning goals last season, on top of 3 shorthanded goals and 7 shorthanded points on top of that. And we saw that in the playoffs as well, being part of that huge line. But like Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, and him are arguably the best line in hockey right now when they're on their game. But yeah, that's just the thing. Like as a guy that can do it all in all situations, and even though he can cross that line every once in a while,
every once in a while.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I hate him so much, but you gotta show him the respect, and he's got to be at least a top 3 winger in the NHL right now, or left winger in the NHL right now. And of course, the number 1, which was the easiest thing to start this list, the Great 8, Alexander Ovechkin. Just another Rocket Richard trophy to his mantle last year. 51 goals, 89 points last year. That was his 8th Rocket Richard of his career. He is now 44 goals away from 700 in his career, which he should get with the way that he keeps producing, and probably about like 20 of them will just come from that left circle.
Yeah, always can't seem to stop it.
Yeah, shot generating machine, 338 shots on goal last year. Only 2 other players had more. I believe that was Tyler Seguin and Nathan McKinnon were the only 2 players that had more. And in the playoffs, he stepped it up again, where he had another 4 goals, 9 points. If it just wasn't for them being on the wrong side of the double overtime against Carolina, it could have been another long playoff run possibly for the Caps. But yeah, it's just having a guy that can put the puck in the net at will at any moment, and then the hits, like you brought up, he had 223 hits last season. So he's a guy that can just run you over. And then having 2 elite premier passers like Kuznetsov and Backstrom and that top power play unit, it really does wonders for you. But you never know. It's just like it might still be a long shot, but man, that Gretzky record, if ever there was a player that could take a shot at it, it's Ovechkin. So we'll see how it is in the years to come. But yeah, nobody's better than Alex Ovechkin at playing the puck in the net.
So again, that's our top 10 list of left wingers. Comment below or wait for the next day or two when we get the list out on the webpage, on our Facebook page, and you can comment about our list. And obviously it's different this time for a change, Matt.
Yeah. Well, I was still shocked our top 10 defensemen, even though in different orders, it was all the same 10 defensemen.
Yeah, that surprised me considering how many good defensemen there are too. So
we'll see how we go, because once we get to the right wingers and the centers, I know the centers, it's pretty well like mapped out. At least the top 5, I believe, just going off the top of my head, will probably be the same. But yeah, and then the right wingers, I think it could be like our left wingers, where it could maybe be a little all over the place depending on where we value guys. But yeah, but those will be coming next week. I know we'll be stepping up our show count next week. We'll be deciding if we're doing 2 or 3 shows to start next week, but there will be at least two shows next week. But we will keep you updated on all that on our Facebook page.
Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, for being loyal listeners and fans of our show. And we'll catch you guys all next week. Remember to chime in where possible, like, subscribe, share. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.